Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalaka Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahakana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sachivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijan Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahakana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Tena Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vishvanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpataruvascha Kipa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming. We welcome Tushar Prabhu. He is also in the process of getting caught up from past recordings like many of you. Tushar Prabhu can please feel free to ask any and all questions, even though you are joining partway through. So we are in the middle of Bhagavad Gita chapter 15. So just a recap of where we are. So chapter 14 established Bhagwan is superior to Brahman effulgence. Chapter 15, Krishna explains the same point that Bhagwan is superior, just in a different way. Krishna explains how Bhagwan is the ultimate reality, that Bhagwan is Purushottama, is the greatest person. Therefore, chapter 15 in Sanskrit is titled Purushottam Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme. Chapter 15 is divided into 5 sections. Section 1 is verses 1 to 6. Attain liberation by detachment, where the upside down banyan tree analogy is described, that how everything in the material world is opposite to how it should be. So we covered the first 6 verses at our last class. Then section 2 is 7 to 11. Otherwise, bondage and transmigration will continue. Meaning, if you are not able to detach yourself from the material world, then your bondage and transmigration through the 8.4 million life forms will continue. Section 3 is verses 12 to 15. How Krishna assists us in our material existence as well as our spiritual endeavors. Section 4 is verses 16 to 18. The essence of Vedanta, how Krishna is Purushottama. These 16 to 18 verses are also known as Tri Shloki Gita. 3 verses, therefore 3 Shloki Gita, where the entire Vedas, the essence of entire Vedas, is summarized in these 3 verses. And section 5 is verses 19 and 20. Title is To Know Krishna means to know everything. So here the 3 Shloki Gita is further emphasized, where it is said that knowledge of Krishna is the most confidential knowledge. One who understands this, he knows everything, and he engages in Krishna's devotional service. Both chapters 12 and 15 are among the shortest chapters in Bhagavad Gita, with 20 verses each. Still, both these chapters 12 and 15 have significant amount of information and knowledge in a condensed form. Chapter 15, the key points are importance of taking shelter and surrender to Krishna, plus the detachment point through the analysis of the upside down banyan tree. So section 2 is verses 7 to 11. Title is, if you are not able to detach, then bondage and transmigration will continue. So 15.6 verse ended that spiritual world is Krishna's abode. It is self-illuminous. Once one attains the spiritual world, one does not come back from there. The characteristics of spiritual world are described and is also glorifying the spiritual world. Then the question becomes that why is the soul here in the material world? And this is discussed in 15.7 that the soul's journey in the material world, as well as the discussion continues in subsequent verses. So last class, Priyadarshini had asked this question that if the soul gets purified in this material world and goes back to spiritual world, then the soul will not get envious of Krishna again. Is that correct understanding? So even after we go back to spiritual world, we will continue to have our free will. So it's not absolute that a particular soul cannot change, but there is a very less likelihood of the soul doing the same mistake again. Just as, say, a child, you tell the child, don't touch something hot, and the child touches and gets burned, and that's when he realizes not to touch something hot. Or say you tell the child, don't touch the live electric wire, and the child touches and gets a shock. And that's when the child, from that point on, will be very careful not to touch a live electricity wire. Similarly, how we all souls have come in the material world, we have now experienced the misery that this is really a very miserable place. And therefore, I don't want to come back again here. I don't want to do that same mistake again of wanting to be enjoyer or wanting to uh, be envious of Krishna. So there is next to zero likelihood of soul doing the same mistake again because of the real life experience from this life. But the soul still has free will. And nobody not even Krishna, interferes with individual souls' free will. Does that answer the last week's inquiry? Sumnima has a question that will we remember all these miseries from this world, or what will happen with our memory? So before going to the spiritual world, we purify our memory, we purify ourselves. So we will remember the miseries that the soul will remember, that the soul went through all these miseries. But all the enjoying mentality that we have in our memory, that gets wiped out. So only the experience, the suffering that we had, so that we don't do this mistake again. So Niva, does that help you? All right. So we'll continue with from verse number 7 onwards, that the characteristics of spiritual world are described, and then why is the soul in the material world, that is described from verse number 7 onwards. 15.7 is a very important and a key memorization verse. I will recite the whole Sanskrit first, and then you all can unmute and recite one line after me, please. So if you look at the Sanskrit of 15.7, the very first word looks like a very long Sanskrit word, and Prabhupada has made it simple for us. He has split it into 3 words, Mama, Eva, Amsha. So you can easily pronounce that way. And same way in the third line you have Shashashtani Indriyani. So Prabhupada has split those words for us. So I will recite 15.7. Mama eva amsha jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana mana shashastani indriyani pakati stani karsati. Everybody unmute and recite one line after me, please. Mama eva amsha jiva loke
Mama
मम एव
जीवलोके
लोके
jiva bhuta sanatana
जीवभूता
जीवभूता
सनातन
सनातन
mana shashastani indriyani
मनः शशस्तानि
शशस्तानि
इन्द्रियाणि
इन्द्रियाणि
pakati stani karsati.
प्रकृतिस्थानि
प्रकृतिस्थानि
Read to translation.
Hare Krishna. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. Hare Krishna.
So the 15.7 verse has 2 parts. And both parts are important. Mama. Mama is important. Krishna is saying all souls are my amsa. Mama eva amsha. Krishna does not say that the souls are Brahman effulgence amsha. No, he says all souls are my eternal parts. And souls are eternal. So the first part of the verse states the philosophical truth that we all souls are eternally parts of Krishna. The second part of the verse is also important, that the souls are suffering and struggling in this material world. Now, Krishna has already stated the struggling part earlier also. He has said in 8.15, 8.16 that all material universes are places of misery. It says the same as in 9.33 also, that the material world is temporary and miserable. Said same point in 13.9, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, that material world, all universes have these four things common: birth, death, old age, and disease. So these other verses, all these are stating the same point as the word karsati in 15.7. So the previous verse is 8.15, 16, 9.33, 13.9. They state that the material world is miserable. 15.7, Krishna is saying that the soul is suffering, is miserable. So question is it that the living entity is suffering because of senses? Or is the soul suffering and it also has senses? So if you read the third line, it says, Mana shashastani indriyani, that mind and the six senses. And then he says, Pakati sthani karsati, that with the mind and senses, soul placed under Prakriti is karsati, struggling. The answer to the question whether soul is suffering because of senses or soul is suffering and the soul has senses, the answer is, significant point is that people think that senses are sources of happiness. People think eyes are to see beautiful things, tongue is to eat delicious items, all senses, that I will enjoy all my senses. People think senses are sources of happiness. Now, soul has the same nature as Krishna. So why are we suffering? Why is there karsati? Because of mana shashastani indriyani. Material world is a place of suffering, and that suffering is further aggravated with the entanglement of mind and senses. Old age, disease, death are inevitable. These are miseries of material world. When mind and senses are controlled, that leads to no control, no desire to enjoy the material world. But when mind and senses are uncontrolled, that leads to great attachment to the worldly things. Due to attachment, one ends up suffering far more than what one needs to suffer. So the karsati, the struggling is happening because of mind and senses. The second part of the verse conveys that the senses are the cause of karsati, the struggling. So let's read the purport, and Prabhupada also explains this point about karsati. Ritu, second paragraph, you can read and I will pause you.
Hare Krishna. The living entities, not only human beings and the cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of the material world, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even Vishnu, are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. They are all eternal, not temporary manifestations. The word karashati, struggling or grappling hard, is very significant. The conditioned soul is bound up as though shackled by iron chains. he is bound up by the false ego, and the mind is the chief agent which is driving him in this material existence. When the mind is in the mode of goodness, his activities are good. When the mind is in the mode of passion, his activities are troublesome. And when the mind is in the mode of ignorance, he travels in the lower species of life. It is clear, however, in this verse that the conditioned soul is covered by the material body with the mind and the senses, and when he is liberated, this material covering perishes, but his spiritual body manifests itself in his individual capacity. The following information is there in the Madhyan Dinayana Struti. Sarva esa Brahmanishta idam Shariram Martyam Atisraja Brahma Bhisma Padya Brahmana Pashyati Brahmana Shrunoti Brahmana Aivedam Sarvam Anubhavati. It is stated here that when a living entity gives up this material embodiment and enters into the spiritual world, he revives his spiritual body. And in his spiritual body, he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He can hear and speak to him face to face. And he can understand the Supreme Personality as he is. From Smriti, also it is understood Vasanti Yatra Purusha Sarve Vakuntha Murtaya. In the spiritual planets, everyone lives in bodies featured like the Supreme Personality of Godheads. As far as bodily construction is concerned, there is no difference between the part and parcel living entities and the expansions of Vishnu Murti. In other words, at liberation, the living entity gets a spiritual body by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So Prabhupada
Hare
explains
Krishna.
Karsati very nicely here that we are bound up, we are shackled with false ego, and the mind is the chief agent driving the soul in material existence. Srila Prabhupada says Karsati is very significant. Conditioned soul is bound up, shackled. So we don't see the iron shackles, but these shackles are subtle chains. They are our own desires which are shackling us into material existence. And the mind is the chief agent which is driving the soul in material existence. When mind is in the mode of goodness, his activities are good. When mind is in passion, his activities are troublesome. When mind in ignorance, he travels to lower species of life. Now, how does the mind drive? Because the mind shows different images in front of our internal television. And we get captivated. Oh, this looks good. Oh, this tastes good. Let me enjoy. This is how the mind drives, by providing images of enjoyment on the screen, our internal screen. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says that when mind is in the mode of goodness, the activities are good. When mind is in passion, the activities are troublesome. And when mind in ignorance, it travels to lower species of life, meaning what is displayed on the internal screen is different at different times, depending on which mode is active. So activities in all three modes are in suffering. It's just that the degree of suffering is more, say, in the mode of ignorance as compared to mode of goodness. So question posted in the chat is, why only mind is mentioned along with senses and not intelligence? Because we are struggling with intelligence too. So it will come up in upcoming verses very soon, where the composition of our body is described. That look at your palm. The middle part of the palm is the mind, and the fingers are the senses. So the mind is the chief controller of the senses. So whatever the senses see or taste or whatever be the function, that information first goes to the mind. And then the mind will then tell the intelligence, okay, I want to enjoy this way. So now you act in a way so that I can enjoy. So we have discussed in Bhagavad Gita 3.42, the correct hierarchy is that soul is at the top. Soul gives direction to intelligence. Intelligence gives direction to mind, and mind gives direction to senses. Then the senses will be used properly. But right now, most of the people have this hierarchy upside down. That senses are in control, and senses just want to enjoy. And therefore, there is chaos in the material world. Therefore, it's the mind that plays the chief role. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
So 15.7 says soul is eternal, liberated. And when the soul becomes separate from Krishna, it leads to karsati, means suffering. So what is that karsati is explained in 15.8. Subhash Prabhu, 15.8 translation.
Hare Krishna, 15.8. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another.
So example is given that when wind carries the fragrance of garden from where the wind is blowing, as well as the wind carries the bad smell when the wind is blowing over bad smelling area. Similarly, the soul acquires different conceptions of what is life, how life is meant to be enjoyed. The point is that different people can have different conceptions of what makes them happy. How they get these conceptions is based on their circumstances, the association with the modes, resulting in terrible misconceptions about what is life, how one should live, what one is meant to do. The emphasis of 15.8 verse is that the soul is affected by the circumstances the soul goes through. and the soul develops the conceptions based on those circumstances. So if we are exposed to certain situations repeatedly, then we accept those situations as normal and we act according to those situations. An example, an Indian, he goes to America. Now, Indians don't know anything about baseball on day one. While this Indian is in America, everyone in America is mad about baseball. Then this Indian gets exposed to baseball and he gets infatuated and he also becomes mad about baseball. Meaning, just as the wind blowing in a particular place acquires the fragrance from that place, whether it be good or bad, similarly, we acquire particular conceptions. And Jila Prabhupada says in the purport, conceptions of life, that we acquire conceptions of how we are going to enjoy. We are all shaped by our experiences. But we don't have to be determined by our experiences. Rather, we can respond in different ways. We are shaped by our circumstances. Hence, we choose our circumstances as much as is possible so that we are in the mode of goodness more and more and more. So instead of hanging out with undesirable people, we have to choose our association appropriately. Rather than going to circumstances which drag out our lower self, we have to choose a social environment which brings out our higher side. Is everybody able to hear me? Drashti says she's not able to hear. Everybody able to hear me?
Yes,
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, you are audible.
Drashti, you can please disconnect and connect again, please. I will message for Drashti. Drashti will connect soon. Okay. So I was explaining that we have to choose our circumstances, our social environment, which brings out our higher side. So if you recall, we chant the Mahaprasade prayers. In the Mahaprasade prayer, there is this line, Sharira avidya jal, jodindriya tahekal. The meaning is that body is made out of avidya, body is filled with ignorance. And it's not just body is filled with ignorance, rather the body is trap of ignorance. And within the body says Jodindriya Tahekal, that within the body the senses are pathways to destruction. So when we follow the senses, we accelerate misery and repetition of birth and death plus two hellish conditions. Drashti, are you able to hear now?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm able to hear you now.
Thank you
Prabhuji.
very much.
Sorry.
Now, question becomes, why I have a particular type of body and you have a particular type of body? The answer is because in our past lives, we have chosen to develop a particular type of conception. Based on that conception, we have acquired a particular mindset plus a particular physical body made out of senses with something dominant so that I can enjoy. So the soul will acquire another body depends on the conception the soul acquires in this life. So what conceptions we acquire in this life, that we can choose based on scriptural study, so that at least on a go-forward basis, we have a better life. So we can decide how we can respond to our experiences. Srila Prabhupada explains Karsati, that this process of transmigrating from one body to another body and struggling while in the body is called Karsati, or the struggle for existence. So the Karsati is both going from one body to another body at the time there is death, and then the post-mortem journey, birth, plus second is while we are in this body, the various miseries that come along with the body. Everybody with me? Questions, comments, realizations? Drashti, verse number 9, translation.
Yes, Prabhuji. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, contains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects.
Right, exactly what Monak Prabhu was asking a few minutes ago. Is explained right here that how our senses are grouped about the mind. So soul acquires 5 senses which are centered around the mind and enjoys the sense object. So the senses are ear, eyes, touch or skin, tongue, smelling power. All these are centered around the mind. Just as we have the 5 fingers centered around the palm. The palm is the mind. Similarly, the 5 senses are centered around the mind. So in verse 9, there's a Sanskrit word upasevate, meaning enjoys. So the Sanskrit word upasevate contains the word seva. So the soul serves the sense objects, although the soul has the illusion that the soul is enjoying. Sorry. So depending on the conception we have acquired, accordingly we are given the next body. Therefore, upasevate. I am thinking I am enjoying, but in reality, I am serving my senses. We are enslaved by senses, and that causes us suffering. The soul is dragged by various senses. This way, the soul tries to enjoy, but actually the soul gets bound. Questions, comments, realizations? Malti, verse number 10, translation. Malti, you will have to turn off the volume on one of your connection.
Sorry, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Text 10. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quiet his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the mode of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. Hare Krishna.
So the foolish soul cannot see, but one who has eyes of knowledge, he can see. This eyes of knowledge or jnana chakshu discussion will continue in subsequent verses also. So jnana chakshu, with the eyes of knowledge, one sees that the soul is entangled in material existence and is suffering. Without the eyes of knowledge, one thinks, I am enjoying. You look at an example, and you look at a drunkard. The drunkard thinks, I am enjoying. But a sober person sees that the drunkard is shackled by addiction. So foolish person thinks, I am enjoying, I am doing this. Exactly what is explained in Bhagavad Gita 3.27. Kartaham iti manyate is Muda. Atma, the word is there in 3.27. So the soul cannot see this so-called enjoyment is happening under the modes. But one who has eyes of knowledge, that person can see. So in next verse number 11, Krishna will describe how one can acquire the jnana chakshu. The difference between those who can see and those who cannot see. That why some people have jnana chakshu and why others don't have jnana chakshu. Anybody interested to see or to have jnana chakshu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
All right. Pratyush, verse number 11 translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Verse 11. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try.
So a yogi means transcendentalist. They endeavor. Yogis can see that the soul is dragged by the modes and the senses because the yogi is situated on spiritual platform. So others are also endeavoring in the material world. They are not situated on spiritual platform. Therefore, they are not able to perceive because of their undeveloped minds. So the comparison between two is that both are endeavoring, materialistic people as well as transcendentalist. But the transcendentalist is situated on the spiritual platform. Therefore, the transcendentalist, the yogi, is able to see that the soul is being dragged by the modes and senses, while other materialistic people is without self-realization as well as has undeveloped minds because of no self-realization. Now, just to have a desire for spirituality is not enough. Yes, it's a good desire, but just the desire is not enough. What is required is to develop jnana chakshu, endeavor is important for this to develop the jnana chakshu. But that endeavor should lead to transformation so as to become situated on spiritual platform. I'm not sure if anybody thinks that I gave you the solution as a circular logic. It seems like a circular logic that to see the soul, we have to be able to situate on spiritual platform. And those who cannot see the soul because they are not situated on spiritual platform. Anybody finds this catch-22 problem? So what comes first? Nobody? Everybody okay? Or everybody confused?
Confused, Prabhuji. Can you explain it again?
Okay, so my question is, what comes first? Because this looks like a circular logic that to see the soul, we have to be situated on the spiritual platform. And those who cannot see the soul is because they are not situated on the spiritual platform. So what comes first? Everybody?
Prabhuji, how to get into spiritual platform?
All right, very good. So that's my question, that what comes first?
Prabhuji, the first should be the knowledge. We have to acquire the knowledge.
All right. Sumnima says Akyat Sukruti, okay. So this Akyat Sukruti, knowledge are good. So the answer is that what comes first? If I cannot see the soul, I will not be inspired to be on the spiritual platform. And if I am not on spiritual platform, then I cannot see the soul. So I am in catch-22 problem. So what comes first? The answer is what comes first is submissive hearing. By hearing, we understand that there is a higher reality, and hearing triggers both that we get some perception and inspires us to pursue further as well. Everything begins with little bit of faith, with positive curiosity, and others who cannot perceive because their consciousness is caught at material level due to attachment. So very important that the hearing will get us some perception as well as will inspire us to make further positive inquiry. Means we'll have this positive curiosity. So Tushar Prabhu is joining us for the first time today. And in my offline discussion, I already mentioned to him that ask question. He already says, I have questions. I said, that's very good. Ask questions, because when we get those questions answered is how we will move forward. So question becomes, which Shreyanshi already asked, that how do we situate ourselves on the spiritual platform? What does this mean? The answer is we have to act at the level of soul and not act at the level of body. So question is, how do you act at the level of soul, and what does acting at the level of body mean? So Acting at the level of body means my eyes see something attractive and I want this, I want that, I want to enjoy. Acting at the bodily level means letting the bodily desires and drive and rule our life. And acting at the level of soul means whenever we get opportunities to serve Krishna and Krishna's devotees, we grab those opportunities because devotional service is at the level of soul. This way we shape our life. That we continuously try to act at the level of soul 24 hours by trying to remember Krishna, by dovetailing our day-to-day activities in Krishna consciousness. We have discussed practical examples for this throughout our study. Now, the other question is, to be on the spiritual platform, does it mean I'm a pure devotee or does it mean I have to be a pure devotee first? So to be on the spiritual platform does not mean only fully self-realized devotee can be on the spiritual platform. No, there will be a transition phase. So Shruti is correct, Mishra Bhakti, that not be at full spiritual level, but you can still act at spiritual level to move in the correct direction. Exactly what Shruti and other devotees were doing last Monday on the Gita Jayanti Monday, doing devotional, spontaneous devotional services for such a long time. Meaning, we do not let bodily desires rule our life. So those who let their bodily desire rule their life, then the result is their consciousness gets dragged away from Krishna. Drashti has a question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So you said about hearing, right? So in one katha, I heard that you can love Krishna by two or three ways, either to hear something about him, either to by seeing him, or either by smelling him. So is this the same thing that you said earlier?
So, which Krishna Katha are you talking, or where have you heard this?
Randomly, I just sometimes I opened Indiresh Ji's katha, and sometimes I randomly listen those kathas and everything. So,
So it's very important for you, Drashti,
hmm?
to listen to our class recordings from the start, where I have crystal clearly explained to delete YouTube and all social media channels from your phone.
Oh,
Because these are contaminating you. You don't know whether you are hearing from the right source. So Srimad Bhagavatam describes that if you hear from wrong sources, is like drinking milk that is touched by a snake. It becomes poisonous. It contaminates your consciousness. So hearing is important, but then proper source is more important.
okay.
Not randomly. This you have to stop right away.
Okay. So do we have any YouTube channel, ISKCON's YouTube channel?
So first of all, if you have a lot of time, you are behind on listening to our class recordings.
Yeah, I know that.
So you should spend time on getting caught up. And there are devotees in our class who are caught up, and there are a few devotees who are in the process of getting caught up. And they will tell you the benefit of hearing, because there is a lot of important discussions in those classes. So you do have time that you are listening to anything and everything. So you have to channel that time to listening to what I am asking you to listen to, not anything and everything.
Got it, Prabhuji.
So somebody from those who have recently caught up and those who are in the process of getting caught up from past recordings, you want to share your experience and inspire Drashti to get caught up? Riya, Shruti,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Just quick answer for Trusty's question, just which came into my mind, which I had heard in the recording itself. So just knowing about Krishna is not knowing Krishna. So hearing from others or any other sources or just thinking is not actually knowing about him. So this is one of the point that I heard in the past recordings. So whatever questions we have, if we hear the past recordings and the discussions, most of them are already answered. So that's why I feel it's very important to listen to all the recordings and understand.
Very good. Thank you. So those who are at the beginning, I have to remind them that what's happening, why are you not listening? And once you start listening, for example, right now, Shruti is in a fast forward mode. She is listening 2, 3, 4 classes every week. Why? Because spiritual taste gets developed. So Drashti, it's very important for you that you drop everything that you are listening and you just focus on getting caught up. And Shruti perfectly pointed out that it has a lot of base information. Once you have a solid base, then Bhagavad Gita understanding will become easier. Drashti?
Yes, Prabhuji, got it.
Then what was your question? Does that get answered?
Yes, it got answered by Shruti.
So Krishna is unlimited. It's not possible for us to know Krishna. We know few things about Krishna. And when we do devotional services, Krishna will reveal the required information from within. Krishna says this in 10.10, Tadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, that Krishna will give the intelligence by which we go back to Krishna. So Drashti, make a plan for yourself that, and I'm not pushing you that you should be in a fast forward mode like Shruti. No, work at your pace, but have a plan in place to get caught up on past recordings.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Right.
Yes.
Questions, comment, realization so far?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, my question is a bit broad. For us, Gyan Chakshu, that is in our dharmic knowledge, our Gyan Chakshu is very different compared to the Gyan Chakshu of the remaining 7 billion people on planet Earth, because their Gyan Chakshu, like the way they believe, even if they want to be spiritual, their scriptures have different notions and different ideas. Why is this disparity there?
So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, around verse 23 or 24, Prabhupada explains that other religions are created under the modes and we do not disrespect other religions. So people in the material world, they wanted to become enjoyers, so they have created all these different religions. These religions are man-made. Krishna did not create these religions. Krishna the only religion that exists in spiritual world, as well as what should exist in material world also, is Sanatan Dharma. We have discussed this in Bhagavad Gita introduction. Sanatan Dharma means eternal nature of the soul is to serve Krishna. So because of the modes, all these thousands and thousands and thousands of religions have come about, or even in Bhagavad Gita. Everything in Bhagavad Gita is not pure devotional service. Therefore, in 18.66, Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja, that abandon all other varieties of religion. So Bhagavad Gita also explains to you other varieties of religion which are lower than pure devotional service. So we do not disturb them. They are in an evolution cycle. If we get the opportunity to explain to them, if we have the ability to explain to them, then we explain the highest truth which is there in Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada has also said this point in some of his lectures, that all these pseudo-spiritualists, especially in India, Prabhupada said, you pseudo-spiritualists are creating havoc in the material world and you are making it difficult for Krishna consciousness to flourish. So you are correct. Everybody has a different conception. We just discussed in 15.89 verses that people have created their conceptions, not concept, but conceptions of how they will enjoy. And people are even using religiosity to get their enjoyment. They are not doing religiosity to go back home to Godhead. Therefore, in Srimad Bhagavatam, those devotees from Bhagavatam class, 1.1.2 says, Dharma projeta kaitava. Kaitava means all these other religions are cheating religion because they keep people bound in the material world. If you look at all these demigod worshippers, what are they doing? They go to demigod and say, I want this, I want that. They never ask, I want to go back to spiritual world. Although Shiva, for example, or Ganesh, for example, can also fulfill your eternal desire to go back to spiritual world. But nobody is asking because their conception from previous life is to enjoy, and they use religiosity also to enjoy. And this point that people who are demoniac, they use religiosity for their name and fame will come up in next chapter number 16. Pratyush.
Thank you for explaining, Prabhuji. I just want to add something real quick. Is for example, I'm from West Bengal, and we have a strong Shakto or Shakti sect, basically. We have great people like great saints like Ramakrishna Paramahansa, who are great devotees of Ma Kali. Uh, is that demigod worship, or can that lead to spirituality as well?
It cannot lead to spirituality. Whether it's demigod or whatever you want to call it, it cannot lead you to spirituality unless you transform. Because those who worship Kali, you sacrifice flesh. That is not acceptable. So that is lower. Yes, it is there in Kali worship, but it is you are having violence against others whose flesh you are using. You cannot go back to spirituality by worshipping Kali.
Understood, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Questions, comments, realizations? Sharonji?
Prabhuji, I just need to ask one thing. So, like, we in general, like, sometimes refer to tarot reading. For example, and angel numbers. There's a lot of concept of angel numbers and wearing crystals. So, what do you I have comment about that. Like, is that a
Somebody
part
has,
of?
yeah, somebody has created that some humans has no meaning.
Okay.
If something is not there in scriptures, there's no meaning.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
So this point will also come up in chapter 16. We'll discuss towards the end of chapter 16 that people live according to fashion, tradition, logic. So all these fashion, tradition, logic, they look like lighthouses, but these lighthouses themselves keep moving every so often. So how do you determine? Lighthouse is supposed to be stationary. Lighthouse cannot move itself. So scriptures are that stationary lighthouse. Which scripture? Original scriptures, such as Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya, the scriptures that Srila Prabhupada has given us. So just as Pratyush Prabhu's point is coming up in chapter 16, same as your point is, Shivanshi is also coming up in chapter 16. All right.
One last question.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, what about numerology? Like, is it mentioned like in Vedas?
Numerology, I don't understand that part. Or are you referring to astrology?
Yes, Prabhuji. I mean, like, pratishtha. Like, if something goes wrong, then
Yeah, so
wear
you're
this
referring to
ring.
you're referring to astrology. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, there's a verse Prabhupada explains in the purport that astrology is actually a correct science. But right now in the material world, there is nobody qualified to draw up your astrological chart properly. Therefore, if you go to any astrologer, one will tell you one thing, someone will tell you other thing. There may be some overlap, but they themselves are not sure. So astrology as a science is a valid science. But right now there is no one qualified to give you proper astrological charts. Therefore, there's no use of getting a chart from someone knowing that it's anyway going to be wrong or partially wrong. Well, then what's the value of it? Plus, Krishna has explained in Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, verses 24, 25, 26, 27, he has explained Shukla Paksh, Krishna Paksh, that devotees know all these good and bad, the pious and the impious paths and activities. But devotees don't worry about all these astrological science because they only focus on doing devotional service and then Krishna delivers them. Krishna has already said this in 12.6 and 7 that I am the swift deliverer of the devotees. So devotees don't worry about all these astrology, etc.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
All right. So we started the discussion about Jnana Chakshu, although nobody has asked, and I should actually ask, are you comfortable to develop Jnana Chakshu or you need some more help on how do I develop Jnana Chakshu? Nobody?
Prabhuji, I think like you said, some missive hearing.
Okay. But do you need some help with developing Jnana Chakshu? Abhishek Prabhu, you were saying something?
Yes, sure. Lot of
Rest of you, only few of you said need help. Rest of you okay?
Yes, Prabhuji, definitely.
Yes,
need
Prabhuji, we need
Yes, Prabhuji, we need help.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, very good. So in the next set of verses, Krishna will explain how do you develop or what's the first step in developing Jnana Chakshu. So this is section 3, verses 12 to 15. Title is How Krishna Assists Us in Our Material Existence as well as our spiritual endeavors. The correlation or the link between this section 3 and the previous verse is that in 15.11, Krishna said that people should have jnana cakshu so that they can perceive the soul. Now, question may come up, which I already asked, that what if a person is not able to perceive the soul? Any one of you able to perceive the soul or have the ability right now to perceive the soul?
No, Prabhuji.
No, Prabhuji.
No, Prabhuji.
So then how will you have jnana chakshu if you don't have ability to perceive the soul? That is exactly what Krishna will explain, that if I don't have the ability to perceive the soul, then how do I move about to develop the jnana chakshu? And a question becomes that if I don't have the ability to see my soul, can that person make spiritual advancement? Or is it that that person's spiritual advancement is blocked? No, it is not blocked. Therefore, Krishna will explain what is the first step in developing jnana chakshu, whether or not you are able to perceive your soul. Everybody now woke up, everybody now wants to know how to get jnana chakshu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right, only Sevanshi and Riya. Maybe I need to play the critter sound again. All right. So Krishna states how the jnana chakshu can work in different way. Jnana chakshu is possible in two ways. One is you perceive the atma, you perceive the soul. Well, we already said this is not possible for me. Or the second is we can perceive the hand of God around us 24 hours. Meaning we can perceive Krishna's role in our life and 24 hours around us. And this way we can realize that there is a higher being and we can connect to that higher being. So what is the difference between perceiving the soul directly versus perceiving the hand of God? So perceiving soul requires a lot of critical thinking, intellectual depth, which may not always be easy. And many of you already said, I cannot perceive the soul. Neither do I have the ability to perceive the soul. But even if someone is at material level of consciousness, forget perceiving soul. I am not interested in spirituality to begin with. Not able to perceive spiritual reality does not matter. Even when one is at material level of consciousness, one can see the hand of God in material things around us. And this is the crux of the discussion right now on what is the first step in developing jnana chakshu when I don't have the ability to directly perceive the soul. So whatever material things we have and whatever material things we need, we cannot get those by ourselves. All those things that we need, which we cannot live without, they come to us by arrangement of the Lord. And this is what is described in all these verses, and you can perceive the hand of God 24 hours around us. So you can get jnana by perceiving the higher arrangement in the material world around us. So even if I don't have jnana chakshu to perceive the soul directly, I can still have some jnana to perceive Krishna's hand all around me, meaning I can perceive the higher arrangement. So verses 12 to 14 describe how Krishna assists us in our material existence. And verse number 15 describes how Krishna assists us in our spiritual endeavor. Now I'll give you detail of these all 12 to 15 verses. So 15.12 talks about arrangements at the level of universe. 15.13 talks about arrangement at the level of earth or level of planets. 15.14 talks about arrangement at the level of body. 15.15 talks about spiritual arrangement, a very important key memorization verse also. So when you see Krishna's hand all around us through these verses, this is the first step in developing jnana chakshu. So let's discuss these one by one. Abhishek Prabhu, 15.12 translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. 15.12 translation. The splendor of the sun which dissipates the darkness of this whole world comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me.
So Krishna said that spiritual world are self-illuminous. We discussed at our previous class. But material world are not self-illuminous. Therefore, we need sources of illumination. Without the energy coming from the sun, nothing would have had been possible on earth or any of the material universes. I had shown you a visual in chapter 11, that how sun is the center and how I have shown you a video on that. So Krishna says the sun's effulgence comes from me. The question becomes, what does it mean that the effulgence of the sun and moon is coming from me? Is it that there is some source, like how we get electricity in our house? So there is a pole outside and a wire from that electricity pole goes into our houses and we get electricity. So is it like this, that the sun also has a electricity wire connected all the way to Krishna, and this is how sun gets the power? And that's how sun's effulgence is coming? So the answer is, when Krishna says, their effulgence comes from me, means their illumination is made by Krishna's arrangement. That sun will continue to give heat and light for at least 311 trillion 40 billion years, as long as this universe will continue to exist. So this is the arrangement that Krishna has made. So we may study mechanics of how sun works. So how NASA doesn't know anything. They claim they know, but they don't know much. They may study the mechanics of how the sun works, but beyond, the arrangement is the arranger, which is Krishna. So we may study the design, but beyond the design is the designer. That's Krishna. So Krishna is saying that it is I who make all these arrangements by which you can live. By such illumination, an existence in material world becomes possible. So either you see the sun or you see the moon, you can realize Krishna's hand, that Krishna made the arrangement. You can this way perceive the higher reality. So this is Krishna's arrangement at the level of universe. So we are trying to look through jnana cakshu. So from the point of view of people who are at material level of consciousness, how they can begin to appreciate God. So for somebody to understand this, they don't need spiritual knowledge. They can just understand this fact if they have an open mind to understand. The point is that even if someone is at material level of consciousness, for existence and enjoyment, so many arrangements are needed, and those arrangements don't come by chance. Rather, they come by the divine plan of Krishna. This way, one can appreciate the arrangements of the Supreme Lord. We'll go to verse number 12 purport. Let's see. Ria will read. Towards the very end, it says, without his mercy, there cannot be sun. Last 2-3 lines, Ria.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Without his mercy, there cannot be sun. Without his mercy, there cannot be moon. And without his mercy, there cannot be fire. And without the help of sun, moon, and fire, no one can live. These are some thoughts to provoke Krishna consciousness in the conditioned soul. Hare Krishna.
So, what does Prabhupada say? Without his mercy, there cannot be sun, moon, fire. And without the help of sun, moon, fire, no one can live. Prabhupada makes a very important last statement. These are some thoughts to provoke Krishna consciousness in conditioned soul. So you tell me, does anybody in the material world need to know spirituality to understand this fact that Krishna made this arrangement without which, without the sun, we cannot live? Anybody? Silence. All right. Only Sumnima, Polami, Shruti, okay. Right. So if you explain just this simple point without any spiritual knowledge, this can provoke Krishna consciousness in conditioned soul. And you can perceive the hand of God around you. So verse number 12 is Krishna's arrangement at the level of universe. After universe, now Krishna will explain the arrangement at the level of earth or level of planets. Shruti 13 translation.
I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables.
So Krishna is continuing that he provides the arrangements. One may say that the planets are sustained in their orbit because of gravity. What does it mean, Krishna saying, I sustain? How do you understand? You understand that gravity is just another energy under material laws. Gravity is also acting by the will of Krishna. Gravity is one of the energies of Krishna. All the rules, laws of material nature are acting by the will of Krishna. We have discussed this in 9.10. Maya Dakshina Prakriti. So it is Krishna who has made the arrangements for the force of gravity. Now, scientists may explain gravity at the material law level, which is not necessarily wrong. It is just that what scientists explain is incomplete. Scientists are looking from one angle and not realizing that there is something behind gravity also. Everything that the scientists explain, they are explaining at material level. But beyond material level, there is an ultimate cause, and hence the scientist's explanation is partial, incomplete. It is not necessarily wrong, it just is incomplete. Similarly, Krishna is saying, I nourish the moon. Nourishing and supplying the juice happens because of Krishna's arrangement through the moon, means there is some mechanism that we don't know about. So next time you eat some juicy fruit or whatever you like, well, you can remember Krishna, that through the moon's arrangement to infuse the juice in the fruits and vegetables, you can perceive Krishna's hand around you. Everybody with me? Everybody can try this.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
So Parth and Pratyush Prabhu have in the chat saying, we say that sun gives us light, but we never ask who arranged for sun to perform this major function. Very good. So now you realize, now you can see every time you see the sun or you see the moon, you can see Krishna's hand around you. Abhishek Prabhu is saying in the chat, those who have some faith will be able to appreciate these arrangement of Krishna. And those who are atheists will think it's by chance. So you don't, for those who are atheists, you don't have to say Krishna. You can say there is a spiritual entity who has made this arrangement. Now, for people to understand something new, they have to have an open mind. If they are caught in their preconceptions, well, they will never come out. So you can try your best to explain, but then the other person also has to have the ability to perceive. And unless they have open mind, how will they perceive? Abhishek Prabhu, does that help you?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Right. So Abhishek Prabhu, atheist may have a challenge when you use the word God. But you can say in a generic sense that there is a higher being who has made this arrangement. It is not by chance. Yeah. So Shruti, you are correct that those who don't believe in God, if you say God, then they don't believe your statement at all. So use generic statement that there is a spiritual higher reality behind these arrangements. Don't just look at the design. There is a designer behind these material universes. This way you can perceive the hand of God. And for all those who are atheists, like the example that Shruti and Abhishek Prabhus are giving, well, verse number 14 will make it clear for them. So 15.12 was at the universe level. Krishna provides the effulgence of the sun. 15.13 was at the earth and the planet level, that Krishna is sustaining the planets. 15.14 is at bodily level. Krishna will explain how he is sustaining the body. Shreyanshi, 14 translation.
I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of foodstuff.
So in the Sanskrit, in the very first line, you have the word Vaishnaro. So he's the deity, the spiritual deity for digesting fire or the digestion within everybody's body. Then Krishna is continuing to explain that his arrangement of digestion within our body, we eat and we don't do anything, but the food gets digested by itself. How does that happen? So Vaishwana, who's the uh, personality in charge of digestion in everyone's body, gets the power to digest and make all the arrangements by grace of Krishna. Just as sun gets power to give light by the arrangement of Krishna. So living entities are supposed to take shelter of Krishna, but they have taken shelter under the body and they are trying to enjoy at bodily level. But even at bodily level, they cannot even maintain the body by their independent efforts. Not only I think that this is my body, rather I think I am this body. But the fact is, I am not this body and we cannot maintain our body by ourselves. Digestion of food happens by Krishna's arrangement of Vaishwanar. It's not just digestion, there are involuntary bodily functions. They are not happening by chance. They are all very well designed, like our breathing. We will discuss in Srimad Bhagavatam during the creation of material world discussion in Canto 3, Chapter 5, that all our senses, sense objects, have a controlling deity, because of which the senses are able to function. But we don't even realize all this. So even if we want to enjoy sense objects, we don't make the sense objects to begin with. Krishna makes them. The important thing to understand is that Krishna creates everything, arranges everything. By recognizing this, we can develop jnana cakshu. That Krishna is maintaining us at all times. Thus, you can see the hand of God. Whether survival or enjoyment at material level, we cannot do anything. We cannot create the sense objects for enjoyment. Point is that even if we cannot perceive the Atma Tattva, meaning if we cannot perceive the soul, because my consciousness is at material level, we can still see Krishna's arrangement and thus learn to appreciate him. This is the first step in developing Jnana Chakshu and connecting with highest spiritual reality, Krishna. So Krishna does not just arrange for our material life, but his primary purpose is to elevate us to spiritual consciousness also. And this Krishna describes in the next verse, 15.15. I will pause here for questions, comments, realizations. Everybody got the answer on the first step to develop Jnana Chakshu? Monarch?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, Prabhu, everything is arranged by Krishna. Then, Prabhu, what's the role of endeavoring? Like, how can I understand these two things?
So this described in Bhagavad, in Nectar of Instruction, as well as we discussed here also, that endeavor is required. And there's a verse in Canto 11. It specifically says, Bhakti Yoga has to be endeavored. That's the verse. The verse directly says that part. You have to endeavor to get the results. So if you recall Damodar Leela, Mother Yashoda trying to bind Krishna, the rope was always 2 fingers short. The 2 fingers represent, one is our endeavor and second finger represents Krishna's mercy. So when the rope was short, Mother Yashoda did not stop. She added more rope, but the rope was still 2 fingers short. So Krishna was showing us that you endeavor, and then Krishna gave mercy, and that's when Mother Yashoda was able to bind Krishna. So without endeavor, you cannot get anything. And we have discussed this in 2.47 also. Although 2.47 is not a key memorization verse, you all can still try to memorize 2.47, which is the Nishkam Karma Yoga verse. Karmani eva adhikaraste. Ma phaleshu kadachan. Ma karma phala hetu bhur. Ma te sango astu karmani. That last line says, do not be attached to not doing your duty. You have to do duty. Soul cannot sit idle. Only then you can get mercy. Onar?
I got it, Prabhuji.
Rest of you all got the understanding of how to develop jnana cakshu, even though I may not have the ability to perceive the soul directly.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Everybody can see Krishna's hand 24 hours around you.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Yeah, so much.
So like you said, this is the first step in the Jnana Chaksu, right? So we have other further steps coming up also, Prabhuji.
Yeah, this is the first step. And the next step will become spiritual, which is the next verse, right? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to move our material consciousness towards spiritual, and which Krishna will explain in 15.15, that it's not just materiality that Krishna is helping. Krishna is also helping us on our spiritual path, which is what we'll discuss now. Subhash?
Okay.
All right.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, like, is this discussion something similar to what we have read in chapter 10 and 11, where Krishna also describes a lot of. Yes.
Yeah,
And
correct. You are correct. Yeah, it's correct. We have already covered this point in chapter 10 that I cannot see anything beyond materiality. But Krishna gave Vibhuti Yoga that you can actually perceive me 24 hours by the zillions of manifestations around us. Abhishek Prabhu?
And the other reflection which I have is that because, like, I read this previously and now also, but because in my current life I have been used to seeing all these things and taking them from granted, it's like a conscious endeavor to change that regular perception to trying to see the hand of Lord in all these day-to-day activities.
Yeah, so we have to change, right? Our Bhagavad Gita study is meant for transformation. So we don't stop at our default setting. We have to transform. I mean, that is for us to transform. Right?
Yes.
So far I have taken it for granted. But then I have to change myself. Abhishek?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Follow me?
Prabhuji, are these verses anywhere related to
there was a verse in 9.22 that he said, carry what the devotees lack, preserve what they have. Is it the similar meaning? It felt like very meaningful what you had said.
Yeah, no, they are not related. So in 9.22, Krishna is saying that whatever the devotee is lacking for his spiritual progress, Krishna will provide. That's a separate verse. It's not
Okay.
related here.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So 15.15 is also a key memorization verse where Krishna will explain how Krishna assists all of us in our spiritual endeavor. Let's try to finish this verse. If we don't finish, we'll continue in our subsequent class. So 15.15, I will recite the Sanskrit and then you can unmute and recite after me, please. So the meter of this verse is slightly different. I'm not a good at reciting that meter. I will just recite in the Sanskrit. But you learn the meter properly somehow later on. 15.15. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham. Everybody unmute and recite one line after me, please. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto
Sarvasya chaham
Sarvasya
sannivishto
mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha
mata smritir jnanam
Jnanam
apohanam
Apohanam
Vedaischa sarver aham eva vedyo
Vedesha
sarver aham eva
Vedyo
Vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham
Vedanta
Vedanta Krit
eva chaham.
Vachaham.
Padma Kumar, translation 15.15.
I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of Vedas. Hare Krishna.
So just as 15.7 had two parts, similarly 15.15 also has two parts, two distinct thoughts. First part, the first two lines Krishna says about Krishna's presence and his actions through his indwelling presence in all of us. And the second part, line 3 and 4, explains Krishna's connection with the Vedas, that by all the Vedas, I am to be known. So the first part, that Krishna is present in the heart, this is also described earlier in 13.23, as well as will come up in 18.61. So these various verses stating Krishna's presence, the focus is different. Main point conveyed is different in those respective verses. So 13.23 focuses Krishna is the overseer and maintainer. In 15.15 focuses how Krishna acts internally. In 18.61 the focus is Krishna directing the wanderings of all living beings. Now, in 15.15, Krishna says, from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. How do you understand this? What does this mean? So knowledge that Krishna acts internally as Guru for the consciousness, and the same Krishna, if who is inside, acts externally also as Guru, as the initiating spiritual master. There's no difference. The same Krishna that is present inside us, he is also present outside as the initiating spiritual master, as well as the scriptures. This way, Krishna gives us jnana. After we get jnana, we have a choice of what to do with the jnana. This jnana is not meant to accumulate the knowledge in our head. Rather, this jnana is meant to increase our attraction to Krishna. If we can desire to change our desires according to the jnana we get, that is perfect. Example, if we get the jnana that I am not this body, I am a soul, and I am meant to serve Krishna. With this jnana, I can change my desires to turn to Krishna, or I can also choose not to turn to Krishna. The result will be different. Similarly, when we say Krishna gives forgetfulness, what does it mean? So we hear from scriptures that sense gratification leads to misery. But when sense objects come in front of us, instead of surrendering to Krishna, we surrender to Maya. We give up everything and we forget everything else. So Krishna is saying, surrender to me. But when Maya tempts me, I tend to forget all instructions that I have heard from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and I succumb to those temptations. So question is, so can I say that Krishna gave forgetfulness, therefore Krishna is responsible? Meaning, Krishna gave me forgetfulness, therefore I forgot. So why am I responsible? The answer is no, Krishna is not responsible. We have to understand that Krishna is responsive and we are responsible. Krishna is responsive means Krishna responds to our desires. We are responsible. You can break the word responsible as responsible. Means we are able to choose our response. And we are meant to choose the right response. Therefore, we are responsible. We are supposed to be responsible for our desires. Krishna will be responsive. When temptations come and we forget all the instructions from scriptures, why this happens? Go back to the chart we have populated in Bhagavad Gita 2.62-63. Dhyayato. That we start imagining pleasure. So Krishna says it all begins by dhyayato, contemplation, resulting in the fall down sequence. Meaning, when temptations come, it is I who contemplate that, oh, this is nice. I would like to have this. And we entertain the desires. When I entertain the desires, Krishna sees from within, I am entertaining the desires. Meaning, I am telling Krishna, Krishna, I have heard all your instructions, but right now I don't care. Right now I just want to enjoy. So Krishna says, if that's what you want, to enjoy in the material world for little pleasure, then I, Krishna, I will let you do that. Hence, Krishna gives me forgetfulness because I want to act in forgetfulness ways. So just as I broke up the word responsible as response and able, similarly, you can break up the word entertain. that when we entertain desires, entertain you can break up as enter and retain. Means when desires enter into my thoughts, I retain them. Not only I retain them, I also water those desire. I cherish those desire. And Krishna sees from within that I am wanting to enjoy. Therefore, Krishna gives me forgetfulness of scriptures, forgetfulness of instructions, and so that I can act upon my desires. The result will be my consciousness gets abducted. So I cannot blame Krishna for forgetfulness. Krishna is reciprocal. Krishna is responsive. Krishna has given us jnana from Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. When temptation comes, if I choose the desire to serve Krishna, then Krishna will give me further stronger remembrance of scripture, Krishna's beauty, Krishna's glory. Therefore, devotee becomes completely absorbed in remembrance of Krishna. Plus, Krishna gives us forgetfulness of material desires, material enjoyment, if I choose to serve Krishna. Therefore, I will not feel I am missing out something from material enjoyment, because Krishna will give me forgetfulness of material desires if I choose to serve Krishna. Therefore, when desires come in, I have to choose what I have to do. I should not become desirer of desires. Means kama kami. I should not become kama kami. I should not become desirer of desires. But we all should become desirer of Krishna. When we desire Krishna, this will gradually change and Krishna will give remembrance. Remembrance of scripture, remembrance of Krishna's beauty, remembrance of Krishna's glory. So you all should try to move closer to Krishna. When we have the opportunity to seriously remember Krishna. Example, when we are in association of devotees, just as like now studying scriptures, or when you join the japa group, you are chanting, or when we are in devotional environment, just as on last Monday, many devotees, some virtually present here, did spontaneous devotional services. What were we doing? We were simply memorizing verses. We were only discussing Krishna Katha. So when these times, it is relatively easier to remember Krishna. When it is possible for us to remember Krishna, at that time we show to Krishna our eagerness. That Krishna, yes, I want to remember you. Krishna sees this also from within. And when temptations come, Krishna will give us knowledge and remembrance of Krishna. Plus, that we don't get involved in sense gratification. Krishna will give us forgetfulness of sense enjoyment. So till here is the first part of the verse, where Krishna gives us the knowledge, through Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And depending on the desires that I cultivate, he will either give us remembrance or he will give us forgetfulness. Questions, comments, realization before I discuss the second part? So the second part of the verse says, by the Vedas, I am to be known. Now, question may come up, one may wonder, why does Vedas come into picture suddenly? The answer is because Krishna is talking about jnana. First, Krishna has talked about his internal role of giving knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So, how does Krishna give jnana? Krishna gives jnana externally through the Vedas. The connection with the Vedas is, Krishna says, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. So it is important to know what is the purpose of the book, especially if the book has a lot of details. Otherwise, we may be lost in the details of the book, lose track as to what is the purpose of the book. So Vedas are very huge. May not be possible to even complete in one lifetime. Therefore, Krishna says the essence of Vedas is to know Krishna. So this concludes the Jnana Chakshu section. Jnana Chakshu point led to the question that if someone is not able to understand Atma Tattva, then can that person make spiritual advancement? The answer is yes. Any person, even with material consciousness, can see Krishna's arrangement at material level, meaning see the hand of God, hand of Krishna all around us 24 hours. And gradually, this person can understand Krishna's arrangement at material level, plus also come to understanding Krishna's arrangement at spiritual level also. Subhash Prabhu, does that help you with your earlier inquiry?
Yes, Prabhuji, and like I have one inquiry also. Like these days, as a like Gyan Saksu we are talking, I'm trying to see everything like is like in mentioned in 13.2 Kshetra and Kshetragya.
Yeah.
So is this valid in this aspect, Prabhuji?
Yeah, you are correct. You have to know. So we discussed Kshetragya. You are supposed to be Kshetragya, at least of your own body. Right? Many people don't even know. If you actually go to a doctor, they treat you by trial and error. They don't even know uh, the body. Why? Because everybody knows their respective body. So you are absolutely correct. You need to know Jnana Chakshu, which includes the Kshetragya also. Subhash?
Yeah, got it, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Abhishek Prabhu has a question in the chat. Can we see the first part of 15.15 for material knowledge remembrance also? So in Sri Ishopanishad, mantras number 9, 10, and 11, material knowledge that we use on a day-to-day basis for our functional needs, that is categorized as ignorance. Material world ignorance is ignorance, plus material world knowledge is also ignorance, because material world knowledge keeps you bound in the material world. It doesn't help you come out of material entanglement. Therefore, material world knowledge is not going to help you. Here, Krishna is talking the help at the spiritual level. So he's talking about spiritual knowledge. He says the knowledge that comes from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Abhishek Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I had this confusion because many times when I read this verse on surface, it can take both sides of meaning. So thank you for clarifying.
All right. So I wanted to cover the last few verses. They are straightforward, but we won't stretch today. We are just past 10:30 p.m. Toronto time. It will only take few minutes at our next class to finish those verses. So the standard homework after each class is to read the verses and purports of all the verses we have covered. So we covered till 15.15. Plus listen to Srila Prabhupada's lecture that I will post in the chat. Plus those devotees who listen to recording, you should try to send at least one inquiry and one striking point from each recordings so that it forces you to be on track. Otherwise, you are just filing away the recording. It's not going to help you. It will pile up very, very soon. So try your best to send me at least one striking point and at least one inquiry from each recording for all those who listen to recordings. We will stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.